So here I have two devices, and I will transfer $1 from this device to this device instantaneously. Enter the amount and send. I'm seeing the transaction now. And there it is.
What you've just witnessed is what looks like a standard financial transaction. Money was transferred electronically from one account to another. But while it appears like an ordinary bank transfer, it may perhaps be the most revolutionary technology you're likely to see in your lifetime. This technology is called Bitcoin.
Money makes possible the exchange of many different goods and services among many different people. Wherever we go, we see money being used as a medium of exchange.
Money is at the core of our existence. Every day we transact with one another. Currently, almost all of our daily transactions involve a third party, a bank, credit card company, or remittance provider. And ultimately, it's these institutions that carry out the transaction on our behalf. This is until the invention of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is truly one of the most important inventions ever in the history of humankind. That's how big of an impact it's going to have on our lives. And it sounds really difficult and complicated and hard to understand hearing about it. If you had only heard about email, it would sound difficult and complicated and hard to use. Bitcoin is literally easier to use than email.
So what exactly is Bitcoin? Well, for starters, Bitcoin isn't actually a coin. Bitcoin is a new form of money, a currency that lives solely on the internet, one that some have even called magic internet money.
I think part of the confusion is that Bitcoin is actually two different things. It's both a currency and a payment network. And we've never had one thing that's both of those at the same time. So the dollar is a currency, but it's not a payment network. PayPal and Visa are payment networks, but they're not currencies. Bitcoin is both of those things at the same time, but it has this other property, and that other property is that it can instantly be teleported anywhere in the world, just like that, almost for free. And there's nothing that anybody can do to block these teleportations. There's nothing anybody can do to intercept these teleportations. And if you're careful about how you use Bitcoin, you can do these teleportations anonymously. So with Bitcoin, with a push of a button, you can pay anyone anywhere in the world or receive payment from anyone anywhere in the world.
In the aftermath of the global financial crisis, an author using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto posted a 9-page document onto an online forum. The document, titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, would soon become the building block for what is today the first fully working concept of decentralized money.
These are the daily candles of Bitcoin, just in the backdrop. But I want to talk about these trend lines. You've seen them on other presentations even earlier today. I started out working at Bear Stearns back in 2007, so about a year and a half or so before the financial crisis really started to hit. And after Bear Stearns, I joined JP Morgan, where I became a VP, and that was my last job. All of these jobs were either Midtown or downtown Manhattan.
Tone Vays is a Wall Street veteran. A former VP at JP Morgan, he now spends his time studying and educating audiences about Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is generally difficult to explain. You want to try and break it down as simple as you can. So the simplest way is basically, it's like a message. It's a digital message that you're passing. And normally, we're all used to computers. We're all sending emails, we're all sending pictures, but you're always sending a copy. Anytime you hit the send button in a computer, you always retain a copy, you always retain the original. And when it comes to financial transactions, you hit the send button and you have an intermediary, the bank, that is moving money from one account to another. And this is the problem that Bitcoin solved. It was able to take something digital, and when you hit the send button, you're not actually sending a copy. You're actually sending a digital object.
At its core, Bitcoin is basically a new monetary system. However, Bitcoin is unlike any other system we've seen in the past because it isn't centralized in one place. This decentralized nature of the Bitcoin platform is one of the things that make it so unique and world-changing.
We're all familiar with PayPal or Visa or Bank of whatever. All of these traditional services that we're used to control who's allowed to have an account, who can send money from who, from what countries users can send money to other countries' users. With Bitcoin, there is no entity that's controlling any of that. There's just this software protocol that anyone can write software to interact with, and then anyone can install that software on their phone or on their computer. And once they have the software installed, they can now interact with anyone else, anywhere in the entire world that's also using the Bitcoin software.
This software that runs the Bitcoin protocol is commonly called a wallet, a digital purse which stores and allows the holder to move Bitcoins from one wallet to another. The Bitcoin protocol is open source, meaning that the programming code is freely available to add to and redistribute. In this way, similar to anyone being able to add a new website to the World Wide Web, programmers are able to add new products to the Bitcoin network.
We have Jason, for whom this is very late evening because he is in Australia, and we're about to do Jason's first Bitcoin transaction over Skype as our medium, so everyone can see how quick and easy it is. On my end, I will hit send, and Jason is going to hit request. So when he hits request, a QR code should have displayed in the middle of your screen. And he's going to put it up to the camera of Skype so I can scan it with the camera in my cell phone. All right, I see the QR code. My phone is trying to scan it. And there it is. I scanned it. So I feel kind of generous. Let's send Jason $5. So I have just sent Jason $5 in Bitcoin. And let me know when it's registering on your end that you have $5 worth of Bitcoin. And there it is. Okay, so that took about 10 to 15 seconds.
Bitcoin enables users to send and receive money instantly without the involvement of a third party. This digital breakthrough allows the user to effectively become their own bank. This is a complex idea to handle, but the possibilities of this new bankless currency are enormous.
はい、こちら3240円になります。
With the exception of actually handing physical cash to you, generally we have to rely on third parties for lots of different payments, be it credit cards or wire transfers internationally, or even sort of keeping cash under your bed, storing large amounts of cash, we use banks. And what Bitcoin does is allow us to do all of those things without any third parties. So in that sense, we can be our own bank, we can be our own payment system, we can be our own international wire system, we can be our own remittance system, we can do all of these things without relying on any other third parties. That's what Bitcoin allows us to do.
Before Bitcoin, all these companies like PayPal and Visa and Bank of America and any business, they had a ledger that kept track of all their account balances. So PayPal has a ledger that keeps track of exactly who has how much money in each PayPal account, and that ledger is stored on PayPal servers in PayPal's data center somewhere. And before the invention of Bitcoin, people thought that it was impossible. All the mathematicians and computer scientists thought that it was impossible to have consensus on a distributed ledger like this. But what Bitcoin did is it came along and figured out how to keep track of this ledger that keeps track of who has what Bitcoins. But instead of that ledger being on one data center, it's on everybody's computer across the entire planet that's running the Bitcoin network, including my laptop right here. I have a full copy of the entire Bitcoin ledger.
This public ledger, known as the blockchain, is perhaps what could make Bitcoin a financial game changer. Bitcoin is what is known as a cryptocurrency, meaning that it's a digital currency in which encryption is used to regulate the creation of new units and verify the transfer of funds. New Bitcoins come into existence through a process called mining. A miner is a person or entity who runs a very powerful computer in an effort to solve a complex mathematical puzzle known as a block. Miners around the world compete to solve or close a block and are rewarded with newly generated bitcoins if they're successful. All transactions that travel through the Bitcoin network are pieces of this complex mathematical puzzle. So when a miner solves a puzzle, they're actually verifying the integrity of each and every transaction.
Welcome! This is one giant abandoned recycling plant. We've got incinerators over there, those two big silos. Right around this wall, we have a megawatt worth of solar panels. It's a lot. That's about as much as what we consume. So we're going to be able to offset our electrical costs completely. This is a work in progress, but a Bitcoin mine is a group of computers that contribute its processing power to facilitating Bitcoin transfers and the security of the network. Yeah, it is one big supercomputer, and all of these individual computers are kind of throwing guesses at this mathematical problem. And it's a very difficult problem. It takes lots and lots of computers to guess it. Once that guess is correct, that is sent to all the rest of the computers, and with that answer, they record all the transactions that have been done up to that point. It's a very secure system for facilitating transfers, recording transfers, and making sure that no kind of shady work has been done. Because there's some methods in financial transactions where you could double spend, and this whole blockchain thing is one great method of make sure that doesn't happen.
Say if Alice wants to send Bob an email, what would happen under the hood is that along the path of the email across the network, her email gets copied in many places of the network. And eventually the final copy will be relayed to Bob. That's how email works, that's how digital transfers work, and that's how it should work for the majority of digital transfers. That's well and good. However, in the case of money, that would be disastrous if that were to be the way that money was transferred digitally. You don't want copies of the same dollar bill to exist on the network. That would ruin the scarcity premise of money. And so this was the problem that Satoshi Nakamoto tackled with the creation of Bitcoin. And so what happens with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin's blockchain, is that when Alice wants to send one Bitcoin to Bob, she creates a transaction, and that transaction gets copied across the entire network. However, this is different than, say, a single email, because that transaction has embedded in it instructions to the rest of the network that says, from here on out, control over this Bitcoin is now conferred to Bob. Okay? And the rest of the network honors that.
One time I realized that, wow, Bitcoin is really difficult for people to understand, as I spent the whole evening explaining Bitcoin to a friend of mine, and then I got home that night and she posted on my Facebook page, and she goes, yeah, I was thinking more about Bitcoins, and you were explaining Bitcoin mining, and does that mean that Bitcoins are originally underground? And I realized that Bitcoin's a difficult concept for people to understand, and especially Bitcoin mining as well, because Bitcoins are not originally underground.
For new users, Bitcoin can be a difficult concept to understand. Bitcoins aren't physical, and they certainly aren't underground. However, there are some interesting similarities between Bitcoin and a precious metal that is found underground. Gold. gold has been money and a store of value for thousands of years. Today, gold is mined all over the world. The amount of gold that can be extracted from the ground decreases over the life of a mine, until eventually the mine is exhausted of all of its gold. Bitcoins are also mined in a similar fashion. The Bitcoin algorithm is programmed so that the reward for mining new Bitcoins is halved every 4 years until the year 2140, when all Bitcoins will have been deemed to have been mined. Perhaps the mysterious creator behind Bitcoin was trying to mimic the attributes of gold, almost as if to create a digital gold coin which could be divided and then sent instantly around the world.
I try to explain it in some really simple way, like miners, Bitcoin miners, they receive the reward just because they maintain the security of Bitcoin. Mathematically, it means that you need to solve quite difficult problems. It's a just guessing process. You have to make millions and millions of guesses. And if you're right, and you're able to close all these transactions inside of one block, you're successful and you receive 12.5 Bitcoins as miner. Originally, this reward was 50 Bitcoins. Every 4 years, this reward for miners is 2 times less. So reward will be decreasing over the time.
The creator of Bitcoin, whoever he is, was a really smart guy. And he obviously liked math a lot. And he sat down and did some calculations and thought to himself, if everybody in the entire world were to start using Bitcoin, how many Bitcoins would we need in order for that to be able to accommodate everybody using Bitcoin for this? And each Bitcoin can be divided down to 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. And if everybody in the entire world were to start using Bitcoin as their money, the smallest unit of a Bitcoin, which is called a Satoshi, it's 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, would still be worth less than 1 US penny if the entire world were to start using Bitcoin.
So who is this Satoshi Nakamoto? 2 years after publishing the white paper for the peer-to-peer electronic cash system, this mysterious figure vanished, never to be heard from again. The only clues to his or her identity can be found in the white paper. Some speculate he or she is of British origin due to the writings containing some British slang. Others believe that rather than being one person,